The propaganda's a win, stress feeding on my tension. My countrymen, they love their fiction. Words upon now, it's made with good intentions.
Kia ora and welcome to the special episode of 1 of 200. This is Josephine, your host, and today again we're having an interview / chat, and our guest is Amanda Thomas, Senior Lecturer at Te Heringawaka Victoria University of Wellington. She is a Senior Lecturer in Environmental Studies and also the spokesperson for Uni Workers for Palestine, which is a collective that I'm also part of. So there's a lot of us there's a lot for us to share with you about why we're doing this, what was the beginning, what our goals are, and, what we've done so far. So a very warm welcome to you. Haere mai, nau mai, Amanda. I'm just going to give it over to you to introduce yourself.
Kia ora hoa, kia ora tātou, ko waia hau, no kōterangi, no ingarangi, no airangi o kutupuna, e tipu ake au i te pātaka o rākai hautu, me noho anau ki pōneke and nei, ko Amanda Thomas tua koingoa. So I'm Amanda Thomas and I work here at Te Heringawaka Victoria University. I'm Pākehā and grew up in the South Island, and a really proud member of University Workers for Palestine.
Yeah, it's just been so interesting working together with you, Amanda, and other like-minded academics and university workers and students. We've been on this mission to get a BDS action through because we understand at the University Workers of Palestine that the genocide in Gaza happened because it was profitable, and if we want to put an end to the cycle of violence which keeps happening, it's Palestine, Sudan, all these examples happening, is because of the larger economic system which relies on profits. And if we want to end this once and for all, we need to take action and structural change. So can you tell us a little bit about what was the inception? When was the moment of inception of Uni Workers for Palestine? Because I came into this collective, a bit later. You were already working on this for over a year now. I'm really glad that I was able to be part of it, since the last few months, I'd say. But can you tell me when and where and how did this idea come to be? Were you in conversation with your colleagues? What was the inception of University Workers for Palestine?
Yes, so University Workers for Palestine is one piece in this large, growing ecosystem of groups that are working for justice for Palestine and for Palestinian liberation. The inception was about halfway through last year when a colleague, Faisal Al-Assad, called a few of us together who he knew were kind of interested in Palestinian justice and started a conversation basically. And from that conversation, I think it was shortly after we had a coffee, some of our colleagues from Student Justice for Palestine messaged and said there's an American military band that is playing in the central area of the university, a kind of central communal area. If anyone's around, get down there. There's flags that you can use and megaphones. And so a bunch of us grabbed some megaphones, grabbed some Palestinian flags, congregated there and did some kind of disruption or attempted to disrupt the performance, because we know it's through activities like that look very apolitical and nice on the surface is how, they kind of wash their dirty hands of the blood of Palestinians, and we weren't having it. It was really interesting in that moment there were some young men who got really confrontational with us, actually physical with us. And seeing the way that people were emboldened to kind of act on their Zionist sentiments was really interesting. But it also made me really appreciate that ecosystem I mentioned before, because some of the people with us had the martial training that had been built through Justice for Palestine, and were able to kind of sort of de-escalate, but also knew how to handle those people. So it was sort of from that connecting that particular action, we started to kind of form into something a little bit more coherent, and called ourselves University Workers for Palestine. At that point, we were largely based here at the heading of Waka Victoria University. And it's actually only been this year that we made that call to kind of connect up and network across the different universities in Aotearoa. And that has just been such an amazing thing, because there are so many university workers who care so deeply about this and really want to be connected to folks who are also working in this space, and being in solidarity with each other to build our solidarity with Palestine.
Thank you for that. So you mentioned how, you were taking part in this kind of action, given the idea or, the tip by Students for Justice in Palestine. So we're seeing like, the coming together of university workers and students as a community. We make the university, right? So that's just it's the power of the students and the workers coming together is really something. And you were mentioning about the marshals and the skills that they've already got through this long, horrific 2 years that we've been protesting. Um, but what we are developing is the skills to organize, the skills to resist, and doing this work with you, Amanda. We've been preparing press releases. We've been trying to get all these sorts of like talents coming together, what our strengths are. It's been really interesting for me, and it's a learning experience for all of us. We are, leaning on each other and learning things. So you mentioned that, the idea came with after a conversation with as a colleague, Faisal Al-Assad. So how did you have this conversation? Were you already involved in this, or is your research related to this? Is your, teaching and research related to some kind of efforts for justice and change in society at large? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
My research has been kind of increasingly orientated around notions of environmental justice. And I have also done some thinking, a little bit of writing with colleagues around decolonisation, and what it means to kind of imagine decolonisation from Aotearoa New Zealand, and particularly what does the work of decolonisation look like for Pākehā and white people like me. So that work in particular was sort of born out of some conversations we were having about, with a community group, and with young people about what colonisation and decolonisation are. And we wrote a little book about it that was very much about trying to kind of like help people everywhere understand a bit more about decolonisation, kind of just demystify it and kind of invite people in.
What
Yeah.
was this book called, if the listeners want to find out?
Yes, it's called Imagining Decolonisation, and it's a little BWB text, so they're pretty accessibly priced and reasonably short to read. And it was written with colleagues of mine who, were from here in Te Kaua Maui, from Māori Studies. One of the authors now works for the research arm of Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, and our colleagues at Ngāti Toa Rangatira and Moana Jackson. So a collective of us that put together this little book that is, kind of the purpose of it really is to explain a bit of the kind of whakapapa of colonisation and decolonisation, and then I guess lay out some of what the contemporary implications are of that. And my chapter is specifically addressed to white people and kind of reflects on my own story a little bit, but also is trying to, just provide some pathways in for white people and, the kind of work that we might do. Yeah.
That's legendary stuff there, working alongside Moana Jackson on a book. And so
Yes.
this is wonderful. So you were in that space, weren't you? In the space of decolonization. So that makes sense. All the, the little pieces of the puzzle coming together. Obviously, decolonial and anti-capitalist scholars are at the forefront, and not just scholars but activists and everyone, because this is what we study. And it's really interesting because have you faced resistance at the university for your work? I'm interested to know that.
Have I faced resistance? Not that I can think of, although there's possibly stuff out there. And I do sit within a faculty of science and engineering. And so to be a radical geographer working in environmental studies is not always a comfortable place to be. But there are, I guess when I think about the university, I'm thinking about the formal structures, but I'm also thinking about my colleagues. And there are some really amazing radical colleagues at this place who are just doing incredible scholarship and activism. So I think about, I guess I'd kind of try to tune into them, and what would they think about my work is kind of a more important question to me.
Yeah, because there is this question of academic freedom, and the debates were really out there. They have been for decades on Palestine.
Yeah,
As Western scholars have had a lot of trouble speaking and articulating anything about Palestine. And at the beginning, of the genocide in October 2023, there was already controversies happening. At UC, for example, a Maori lecturer said, compared the situation in Palestine to that of Maori here, and then there was a complaint laid against him. And in this context, I've faced resistance as well, being called an anti-Semite for my writing, about
mm,
at the beginning of this genocide, I wrote about the need for a ceasefire, immediate ceasefire and peace process and things like that. Wasn't radical at all. And even for that, I got called an anti-Semite and whatnot. So there was these questions of academic freedom going around. And I just remember this incident where I was told by someone that this particular lecturer, senior lecturer, is a good person to know a little bit more about academic freedom. And I go to this guy, this person, I'm not going to name him, and I talk to him about the situation. And he says to me, so if you believe that the struggle of Palestinian people is similar to the struggle of Maori here, then why are you here in New Zealand benefiting from the colonial system here? So, so this, this is where a lot of the establishment academics still stand. And, we face this, just having an open letter, getting people to put their sign on it. This year we've managed to get about 730, if I remember right, signatures, but it's really not much compared to the number of university workers and academics that there are. And I do sense that there is still a bit of resistance. People don't want to rock the boat in academia. Academia is this, what do you call, a very comfortable middle class job, and a lot of people don't want to rock the boat. So we are working within those spaces, Amanda. I'm
yeah,
glad that you've got all that, camaraderie and comradeship around you, kotahitanga around you. But these things, it might be invisible, but they exist. And this is why,
yeah,
we're facing so much delays, and it's slow when we're raising a very, very, very small, demand of
yeah.
divesting from genocide, isn't it? So let's go to that. What are the specific demands, and what are the goals of uni workers for Palestine, Amanda?
Yeah, I'll talk about that in just one second, but just to kind of like echo what you're saying about all those little nuanced ways that institutional silencing around Palestine happens are really profound, and it happens in all sorts of different ways. So yes, I've had a colleague who student complained about him referring to Israel as settler colonial. And also when I have attempted to communicate to a group of colleagues in a particular way, I was told that I couldn't on this. It's often things that are actually much harder to kind of name and point to as solid things, but it's all these little things that kind of add up that really do work to try, it's work to create a chilling environment around this stuff. And I do sense that there is less kind of fear as things have shifted and more kind of formal bodies have said, yes, it's a genocide, and it's become easier for people. But I also think that, yes, academia can be a very secure place, although in this environment, it's increasingly insecure and very much under attack by the far right.
That's
But there is a sort of comfort that characterizes this place in lots of ways. And I also think that lots of our colleagues are very careful people and actually often quite shy people. And there's a sense with this and with anything related to arguing for Palestine that we have to know everything before we're entitled to speak out and say anything on Palestine. And that's a very intentional tactic that has been created. And so